In today's video, we're taking a look at some off-season moves we might see from teams like Montreal, Ottawa, and Boston. And that's coming up next. Welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. Now today, I'm coming to you live from Halifax, Nova Scotia. I am in my hotel room. Unfortunately, didn't get here early enough and settled in to be able to show you much of the city. I was hoping to use, maybe part of the city as a backdrop, but unfortunately, that's not going to happen today, but I'll do my best to bring that to you over the next few days. We'll be here until Friday, so hopefully the next few videos, you can kind of see part of Halifax, start within the surrounding area throughout some of my NHL videos here. Now, of course, as today we're talking about Montreal, Ottawa, and Boston, let's kick things off with the Ottawa Senators. I want to take a look at an article from Bruce Garriock of the Ottawa Sun talking about the possibility of Ottawa trading up their picks number 3 and 5 to see if they have any attempt to get that first overall pick from the New York Rangers. Now, in his article, he actually has some quotes from owner Eugene Melnyk. Now, as we know, Melnyk's a very hands-on owner, makes a lot of the decisions. Even though Pierre Dorion's technically the GM, Eugene, I think, is very involved and signs off on a lot of the higher profile moves. And he basically said it didn't make any sense at all for the Senators to take those 2 picks and trade up to number 1. And it's likely going to take more than those 2 picks to make that happen anyways. I would think the Rangers would want 3, 5, and something else, maybe even 2 pieces. Difficult to say exactly, but I think they're going to want a decent roster player, maybe even an additional pick or prospect to boot. And that's just a lot to give up when you're already going to get 2 really good pieces. I mean, they may not be as high of a caliber player or high ceiling as Alexis Lafreniere, and I'm sure that Alexis Lafreniere would be a terrific addition to Ottawa, obviously being a very bilingual city, Canada's the capital, to help sell tickets, which they could really use. But you know what? They're going to get either Byfield or Stützle at number 3. He did mention as well in a recent article that the Sens are apparently very high on Swedish forward Lucas Raymond, and he could be the number 5 pick. And, he's certainly a really tenacious winger who has potential to be a very high-scoring, strong two-way winger as well. So, they're also probably interested in a guy like Marco Rossi, maybe Jamie Drysdale, depending on exactly who goes where to number 4 as well. But they're going to get 2 good players. It doesn't make sense. I think the Rangers would want a king's ransom for it. And, based on what Melnyk said and what Garriock says, it just doesn't make sense. So I don't expect Ottawa to really be pushing hard to try to land at number 1 overall pick. Now, of course, we talked about teams maybe making pitches for that pick a couple days ago. I know a lot of Rangers fans weren't happy with it, but at the end of the day, we were just discussing articles from NHL writers talking about what options are out there. One of them was from an Ottawa perspective, one was from a Kings perspective, and obviously they're picking 2 and 3, and they're trying to analyze their teams that they're covering, seeing if they have any chance to get that first overall pick. And at the end of the day, as much as I said Ottawa and LA were the teams best positioned to do so, I really don't think we're going to see that pick traded. It's just, the Rangers haven't had first overall since '65. This is a very special player. And like I said, unless a team comes up and offers 4 or 5 pieces, including a couple really high picks, it's not going to happen. But I think the Senators would be one of the better teams positioned to do so, but it doesn't make sense to give up 2 really good pieces like that, plus. So anyways, don't expect Ottawa to be making that move, but I do expect them to be very busy at the 2020 NHL draft. They get a lot of picks, including 3 first-rounders and several second and third-rounders. I'd expect them to possibly even try to use some of their second and third-rounders to maybe move up in the draft, and maybe even use those picks to garner an NHL player who can be on the roster right away and help them right away as well. Now, moving on to the Boston Bruins, I'm going to take a look at an article from the Boston Globe and Kevin Paul Dupont analyzing the possibility of Tuuka Rask as he played his last game as a Boston Bruin. Now, I know that might come as a surprise to many, and I was a little bit surprised to see this article, but he does make some points that kind of make sense here. At the end of the day, there was already questions on Rask's future before he opted out of the 2020 playoffs. Now, as we know, a couple days ago, Tuuka Rask has decided to leave the NHL bubble. He's decided to opt out of the remainder of the season and playoffs to go home and be with his family. I know he's got young children. I don't know the full exact picture of his personal family life, but at the end of the day, nobody really needs to question this. These players are sacrificing a lot, being away from their families for an extended time. Family should always come first, and, if it wasn't for him, it wasn't for him. And I think from the Bruins' perspective, they certainly want somebody who can play in goal, be committed, and be, have their full heart in it. Because based on recent interviews with Rask, you could kind of tell that he wasn't fully into it. And if he's not, and he'd rather be with his family, then that is ultimately what he should do. Now, there's already questions around Rask's future due to the fact that he's entering the final year of his contract. There was some rumors back a few months ago, maybe he would retire. Is he going to play beyond his contract or not? He does have a modified no trade to about half the NHL he could be traded to without any questions asked. So DuPont's bringing up the fact that maybe the Bruins should have a goaltender who they can rely on through thick and thin, through good times and bad times. And this isn't the first time Rask has made a personal leave of absence. Of course, now remember, we saw what happened to former Bruin goaltender who helped him to the 2011 Stanley Cup, Tim Thomas. Thomas didn't want to go to the White House with the team, took some time off, and he just never really got his career back on track. I know the Bruins organization and his players, his teammates have said they fully support him, and I really hope that they're being honest, and they do. I'd hate to see him be traded just because they seem to not be reliable for being in the bubble here. Clearly, this is a set of unique circumstances. I really don't think he should be viewed upon as being an unreliable guy for going home to be with his family in this situation. But at the end of the day, they need to make a long-term decision over their goaltending anyway. They do have some interesting prospects in the system. They have Jaro Halak, who can hold down the fort. So, you know what? Maybe Rask has played his last game with the Bruins. It's difficult to say, but let me know your thoughts. Do you think Tuuka Rask comes back, plays next year? Does he be traded? Does he sign with Boston beyond that contract? Or does he retire? What do you think does his future hold? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and we'll discuss further. Now, lastly, I want to take a look at Montreal and Max Domi. Now, I know we talked about Domi a few days ago, but I came across a new article on The Last Word on Hockey, who made some extra points here that I didn't discuss the other day. Add some more talk here to the fact that maybe Domi to Pittsburgh might make more sense. There might be more of a connection there than we might have originally thought. Now, of course, taking a look at the Habs, right now, they have young guys like Jesperi Kotkaniemi and Nick Suzuki playing really well at center ice. You got Phil Deneau, who's really come along a long way in the last couple of years, one of the better two-way centers now in the NHL. So that's 1, 2, 3 down the middle. So they don't need Domi to be a center. They need him to be a winger. He was playing fourth line duty as a center to start these playoffs. And now lately we've seen him get a little bit more action on the wing, playing a bit with Kotkaniemi and Durant. And really, he hasn't really had a great playoffs. It seems a little out of sorts to me. That's just my take. But at the end of the day, he's bounced around a lot between center and wing. It's hard to get, some long-term stability in one spot there. And, there's some talk about the Penguins being interested. Elliot Friedman dropped that a few days ago that he could see Domi as a Penguin next year, which is what we talked about just like I said, a couple of days back. And we talked about what a deal could look like. But another connection as well to keep in mind is we know Max is really close with his dad, Ty Domi. Ty Domi, of course, was a longtime Toronto Maple Leaf. Even though the Habs are a big-time rival, he embraced the idea. We even saw Max and Ty in a picture back last year sometime with Ty Domi wearing a Habs jersey, which I know looked really weird for us longtime fans who've seen him play with the Leafs. But at the end of the day, he certainly has no problem to support his son. But the other thing here is that he's really tight and really good friends with Penguins owner Mario Lemieux. Now, of course, he's been seen at several Penguins games hanging out in the press box with Mario. And this article kind of brings up the fact that maybe there's a connection there, that Mario is really interested in bringing Max to Pittsburgh. Of course, his dad is really good friends, and he knows the family very well. So maybe he could influence a move there. And of course, Max Domi's a pending RFA. There's also some talk about why isn't he signed yet by Montreal. And Burke Bergevin made it known a few months ago that he didn't think he'd have a difficult time signing him at all, but yet he's not done yet. I think based on the stats and the analytics, he's probably looking at a 5-year contract. Probably what he's looking for. He might end up doing a shorter term deal because of the flat cap, but 5 years, around $5 to $6 million is probably what he's looked at based on an average of the past couple seasons. At least that would be my prediction on a contract. So clearly that shouldn't be too difficult to get done. But of course, if he were traded to Pittsburgh, what would a deal look like? I mean, I had mentioned Jared McCann maybe being the main forward going back. This article also mentions that same point and throws in young defenseman Pierre-Olivier Joseph, who the Penguins have in their system, who was acquired from the Coyotes in that Galchenyuk-Kessel trade back a little while ago as well. So he's a left shot prospect defenseman. Right now, the Habs have the right side covered in the top 2 spots between Weber and Petrie for a while, so probably makes more sense to focus on the left side. I know in the previous video I mentioned that there's been a lot of talk around Crystal Tang being available, but it doesn't really make sense. He's not really what Montreal needs. I mean, he's a longtime veteran guy, but really they need somebody to play the other side of the ice. Joseph wouldn't be an immediate fix, but the Habs have been getting some decent play and some of their other left shot D. They do have Romanov jumping in the mix next year. Maybe they go down the route of a prospect instead. So maybe McCann, Joseph, maybe another pick, another prospect. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly how this deal would be packaged up together. There could be something else from the Habs side of things as well. But I think there is a real possibility we could have Penguin interest with this other connection this article brings up, and the fact that, like I said, Domi's not going to be a center in Montreal. Maybe they just don't see him as part of the future. It's difficult to say, but if he is going to be signed, he's going to be signed as a winger, and will he be able to be a regular, consistent top 6 winger when you have other guys like Tatar and Drouin, and you have Gallagher, Byron, Armia, Lehkonen. Obviously, they're all kind of fighting for top 6 roles, and you have some other younger players coming up behind him as well, like a Cole Caulfield, who's probably not going to be there for another year, but still, longer term, he should be a big part of their future. Maybe there isn't room for Domi to be a high-scoring winger after all. If he's going to have to play lower in the lineup, maybe it does make more sense for them to trade him rather than sign him to a long-term contract. So I guess let me know what your thoughts are on this article and the points it makes. Do you see a Domi to Pittsburgh trade making a little bit more sense now? What kind of package deal do you think it would take to get it done? And let me know your thoughts from there. We'll discuss further in the comments. So if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and turning on your notifications so you don't miss any future content. And we'll catch you coming up soon here with more videos from Halifax, Nova Scotia over the next few days. Catch you next time.